So here is the form for tracking that I'm using to track time that you're working on the project. Okay, I'm counting this. You're here for the session. You're inputting. So you get credit for that time. You know, I'll have a rough idea if I have to talk to a business about what you've done, of which sessions you're involved with, and that kind of stuff. So hang on one second. We'll get somebody joining. All right. So just posted the survey form, and I'm going to post the Trello invite again. So Timothy, the form I just posted is for basic attendance. If you were here for the last, if anybody was here for the last session, please do it again, because I'm going to give you credit for both sessions. As I said in the previous session, I'm going to shift these over to the meetings over to Zoom probably next week. Just because if we have something like this where we have two sessions back to back, it's the same Zoom meeting. Okay, mine, it ties to my personal account. It's a paid account. There's no limit on time. So we can just run it as one session rather than having it like we did here. We jumped out and jumped back in again. Those of you who came back, welcome back. Those of you that are new, again, I posted the Google form for attendance and the Trello invite that should sign you up for the Trello this time. And people dropping off and on. All right, so we did talk about the card. We talked about the repo a little bit, and set up a couple of settings. I got some folks in on there. Was there anybody here that needs access to the repository that wants to be added as a contributor? If there is, post your GitHub ID on here and I'll add it. If you have trouble with the Trello, nope. And we have one more joining. So again, there's I'll probably have to copy those and paste those again, the Google form and Trello. And let's put these in as one big long message. There we go. Two links for the attendance is on the Google form, and the Trello is the board we're going to use that we started up earlier. We're adding folks in if they need it to collaborator access for the repository. We did start working on cards on the Trello board. We got down to, I do believe, they could go to a test page. And the only other couple of cards I'd want to get in for right now would be setting up what a test page looks like. We're going to do simple multiple choice A, B, C, D. We're not going to randomize or anything like that. Okay. So Tim, we're going to add you in here. All right. So invite is out. Got a couple folks we're still pending on. Only two we're still pending on. That's good. Getting there. Okay. All right. Oh, wait. Where am I? Oh, Trump board. There we go. So, but I'm thinking let's leave this where it's at. We got enough work, I think, to keep us kind of in good shape moving forward. All right. If we look at the first cards, it's install Angular 15. Okay, and we did do do basic cleanup, quick talk through Angular. We need to configure the folder structure, and we need to set up unit tests, which shouldn't be anything too difficult. I'm going to move the Google Meet session on my third screen. Narrow that down. So if you're trying to get my attention, hand up will do, because I think it makes noise when I do that. So let's go to the repo. Okay, we got that. And let's see, I need to make sure we're on a branch. Where did my, oh, wait, where'd it go? Oh, sorry. I was looking for something and it wasn't there. All right, so how to take a test. I'm not going to do this command line. I've been working on code all day long. We're not doing that again. So this is, wrong one. That one. There we go. So this is HTTAT1. Okay, so let me close that out. I can reopen that later so it doesn't get in our way again. So we're adding a feature. One is the branch name. Install Angular. Create branch. Publish branch. All right, so my repository is now set up for that branch. That's what I'm working on over here. And we have just a couple of things in. First thing I want to do is I want to create a new folder. I'm going to call it front end. I would do a couple little weird things in here, but yeah, we'll try it this way. We're going to open a terminal. And I really don't like my terminals that way. We'll put it on the right side. There we go. Much prefer when my terminal's vertical. We have lots of screen space here, so I'm going to open this up a little bit, and I'm going to increase the font size to make it, not decrease the font size. Yeah, I can't read it down there. All right, so that should be a little more readable for folks, right? And it's showing me which branch I'm in. That's one of the things I like with my ZSH terminal. And you can see here we have the front end folder. So we're going to slide into there. And the first thing I have to check is my Angular version for my CLI. Okay, Angular has its own built-in CLI. Right now I can tell you there's a problem. My Angular CLI is 13. Right? To be able to install 15, guess what I need? Okay. Current version of Node 18.2.12 is not supported by Angular. There's a problem too. All right. So let's do a quick little bit of research. And this is why we add extra points on our cards, because you often get surprises. And close things up here. I want to do that research in front of you. We don't want to hide things. So first thing, let's Angular 15, and we need to see which node version, right? I have to see if I have N running or not. Upgrade. The Angular upgrades are really cool. And this is not the page I want to be on, although that doesn't hurt. Let's go this way. We need the update guide. If you haven't seen the Angular update guide, this is one of the coolest things on the planet. I want to go from 14 to 15, and it tells you every step you need to do along the way and any code you might want to change, and it's just a little checklist that you can check things off. And after you update, is there anything else you need to do? Okay. Really cool. We're not upgrading, so it doesn't really help much for what we're doing there. So it is a good thing to know, because at some point we might upgrade again. So I'm not worried about features. I need to see... There was okay. Not finding what I want. What version node? There we go. Angular will no longer support Node.js versions older than 14. 15 through 19 and 16 in favor of 14.4, 16.13, and 18.10. Okay, so that 18.10 is the important part, right? Because I had 18.12. Well, that might not be supported in the Angular 13. Okay, so let's upgrade to 15 and see, or upgrade our CLI first, right? So upgrade Angular CLI, and I'll straighten that up on the page so we can see things. Well, that just sounds too easy, doesn't it? ng update. Update your workspace and dependencies. Update Angular CLI. We don't need the core because we haven't installed Angular yet. We need the CLI to install Angular. Okay. So we're going to try that and see what it does. Should go to the next major version, so it should put 15 on. One of the things I found out with the Angular CLI, if you're in a repository that has Angular installed, the CLI and Angular will be reported as what's in that repository. We don't have Angular installed here, so we shouldn't be getting anything. Error command is not available running the Angular CLI outside of workspace. Well, that's interesting. That's really dumb. All right, let's go the next route. Maybe I can uninstall and reinstall. So if we can do an npm install, we can do an npm uninstall. The one that I've learned over the years. So we're going to do an npm. Why not? There we go. Uninstall global Angular CLI. That was fast. Oh, it didn't uninstall it. And we're still on 13. I'm going to try a global. See what it does. So sometimes it'll work right. Sometimes it'll fight you, right? No, nothing. All right, so we're going to come back to our documentation. Yeah, well, let me do an ng upgrade update without being in a project. I wonder if there's an option for, well, there's a force option. I'm not sure I want to go that route yet. But no, darn. I was hoping there was a -G option with the ng update, but it doesn't look like there is. Okay, let's see. Uninstall Angular CLI global. This is why you put points on cards. Because you never know what you're going to get. All right. Yeah. We tried that. It didn't do anything. Oh, maybe that's where we need to be. Okay, so let's try. Okay, I'm going to run these commands over here so you'll see it. We'll try that again. And then I'm going to do an npm cache clean. This will be annoying because everything takes longer to install, right? We want to install an Angular 13. We're in great shape. So ng. Oh, you little turkey. Okay, so we're going to go a different route. We're going to try and install the package because it wouldn't let me update because we didn't have Angular installed. Which, okay. So let's install. And there's a trick to, because I don't want to create a folder hello world. I want to create it in the current folder. In the current folder. Yeah, this is the article. I see this article every time when I do it. You can see I've been there before. ng new app name -- directory // That's easy enough. Oh, unless you don't take out everything else. And our app name is, we're going to keep it simple, current directory. We're in the front end folder. Yes, we want routing. We use SCSS, let it install. So this is one of the areas where Angular and React vary somewhat radically. We have this nice CLI that lets us add components quickly and work with different things. And most of the time, other than apparently upgrading from 13 to 15, it's pretty straightforward. Now, one of the ones I'll show you, because we're going to have to do the upgrade to get there. So that page that I took you to where I said, hey, we need to do the update of Angular IO, and this is a really cool page, and this is what you need to be on. We need to be there. And we're currently in 13, and we're going to go, what we have to do is you have to step it. You don't want to go straight from 13 to 15. What you want to do is go from 13 to 14, from 14 to 15. Skipping initialization of Git. All right. Since we're already under version control. Good. So now we have a whole bunch of front-end stuff. This is Angular. Okay. And we can spin it up and see it's working, but I want to do the upgrades first. So we're going to follow this upgrade path. And I'm going to give you guys this link so you can check it out on your machines while I'm doing this. This is just Angular IO, and we're currently going to go from 13 to 14, and we're going to follow the steps. We don't need to do a medium or advanced because we don't have anything fancy in there, okay? We're not combining AngularJS and Angular. We're not using Angular Material yet. We are on Windows. No, I have a Windows. I've been working on a Windows machine all day. I apologize. I'm on a Mac. So let's get rid of that command. There we go. So our guide is just this little checklist, and I'm going to run through that checklist. Okay, so I'm going to come over and bring that over here so you don't have to see that while I copy commands. And the nice part is those areas, let me show you that too. Another nice part of this, these areas that are gray, it's already set up to copy. So I click that, I got the command copy. They try and make it as insanely simple as they possibly can. So we're going to update the Angular core and the Angular CLI to 14. I'm going to do a git commit. All right, easy enough. It's Angular. We don't have to push it. We just have to get it committed. And hopefully it'll let us run again. And what it's doing here is it's saying, hey, the CLI version you've got's outdated. We can't do it. So we're going to install this version. And what they're doing is they're installing it in node modules so that we can run it from the node modules. It doesn't really matter which version you have, because as soon as it sees that it doesn't match the version for the project you're on, it's going to run the one out of node modules, which is where you get those nice yellow warnings. I will figure out how to upgrade the Angular CLI in my own time at some point. Cool. Any questions so far as we run through this? I see one smiling face over there. Just installing Angular in the front end directory. Yes, we're just installing Angular in the front end directory. Correct. Well, now we're upgrading. Okay. And this upgrade does a lot of stuff. I mean, it's going through and saying, hey, this is deprecated, this is outdated. You know, if you look here, what it's doing, it removed default project from the workspace configuration. It removed circular dependencies option. It removed default collection. We updated the package JSON. We removed some of the files that aren't needed. We updated the TypeScript configuration. I mean, this is pretty radical stuff. Okay, entry components not necessary. In Angular 14, path match, property of routes was updated, and I'm going to wait till we're in 15 before we do some of the other steps. But I mean, that does a lot. Okay, so we're now using TypeScript 4.6. If we have breaking changes, we have written any code, so that really doesn't matter. Our node, we know from previous, was already at 18. We're not working with forms yet, so we can check these off so you don't lose place in where you're at. AOT summaries in test bed. Well, we don't have any tests, so we don't have any ahead of time compiled summaries. We don't have any JSONP requests. And we pretty much don't have any resolvers at the moment because we really have no code at the moment. That's why it's really good to do this kind of thing now. So we're going to go now from 14 to 15. And we're not on Windows. And here's our list. Okay, so make sure that you're using a supported version. 810x, 1810x, good. TypeScript. Make sure you're using a supported version TypeScript before you upgrade your application to 15. Supports TypeScript 4.8 or later. Okay, well, let's go see our TypeScript version. And that's going to be our package. That's usually one of the last ones. 4.8 or later. Well, that looks good. Right? All right. So then the next step is ng update Angular core 15 in Angular CLI 15. We'll run a command. Looks familiar. And oh yeah, I forgot. Angular 14. My history, base Angular 13, base. Ooh, Angular 14. And I don't have to push it yet. Now we can run the command. And sometimes those get a little wonky when you have a file open, so I'll have to close that out. Guys, bored watching me install Angular yet? I have about 2. The fun part comes right after we get this done. Oh, package JSON file just did a big jump. Probably should have muted before opening the Mountain Dew. Hey, we're doing stuff. All right. Not worried about any of that. It typically will work. And we're just going to say base. 15. And before I push it up, I want to make double check, make sure we didn't miss anything. So we did that, we did that, we did that. Precompile keyframes, we're not using keyframes. tsconfig, remove enable IV. All right. So in the tsconfig file, do we have enable IV? Yeah, let's copy that. Not in there. Decorators and base classes, child classes, inherit constructors, dependency injection, not worried about that. Set disabled state is called, nope. Activated route snapshots, so we're not that far in. Relative link solution, not that far in. Date pipes, iframes, injectors, test bed, that's unit tests. Using provided in ng module from injectable and deprecated, okay. Href, we saw that. Okay, so after you've done everything, the very last step it says is run it, make sure it works. Cool, that's a good step, right? So I know what to type in to run. Okay, but what I want to do is I want you guys to see what's going on too. Okay, so in our README, and ready with the Angular CLI, and version 13, but we've upgraded. Don't care about that. ng serve will run the node server. Okay, ng build will actually build the distribution. That's what we'll use in our pipeline. ng tests runs unit tests. ng EDE, you can execute end-to-end tests. Okay. Open my terminal. Wow, that was weird. All right, so I'm adding the dash open. I happen to know that's there. We're going to see what happens. It should open it in a browser. Would you like to share a pseudonymous usage data with this project? Angular team. I don't care. Sure, they can have the analytics. This is the scary part, right? You've just installed. You want to see what happens. Now, one of the other things I've learned with Angular is you get this .angular folder that gets created, and then Angular, the NG tool, uses that for caching. I had my work machine at one point told me that it was down to 100 meg of storage space. It's a terabyte drive. And so I started doing some digging, and what I found out was that Angular folder was taking up like 700 gig on my drive. So if your system starts screaming that you're running out of space when you're playing with Angular, guess what it might be? Okay. It's just easy enough to delete it. It takes a little while, but easy enough to delete. This is what spun up. Okay. This is our application running, localhost 4200. We don't have anything fancy going on yet, but we do have set up Angular 15. Got to do a basic cleanup. Why do we have to do a basic cleanup? Well, this is not what we want, right? Header, everything. And I pretty much guarantee from having done this many, many times that it's pretty basic stuff that we have to work with here, okay? Quick walkthrough, TypeScript config stuff, pretty basic. Package.json, you've probably seen that. Karma conf is our Karma runner. And I think we have a card in there for fixing the tests, and that's all like down in here, okay? And the browser. That's an easy fix. The Angular JSON is a little different, and unless you're building a library or something like that, there really isn't much you need to change in here, unless they specifically ask. So things like assets, we have an assets folder. Everything in there gets included. The fav icon gets included. If you have some other fixed asset that you want included that's not going to be in those locations, you add it here. If you want to make your styles a little bit more organized, so we'll probably create one for material style. So there are global styles and our material style can be separate. Okay. That happens in here, but it's very rare you spend any kind of time in there. Your core applications in source, you've got app, you got assets, you've got environments. Assets at the moment doesn't have much of anything. Okay. The git keep, just make sure when we push it up to the repo that it stays. We aren't going to mess with environments. In fact, as far as I know, in Angular 15, they're getting rid of the environment usage. But the first place we need to look is at the index.html, and actually that looks pretty good. There's usually a bunch of junk in there. There's app root. Okay, that's the important one. I'm going to change our title. Oh. The href / is one we might have to play with when we push the repository up, and we'll have to dig in on exactly how to do that when we use the GitHub pages. We're not quite there yet. Okay, in our app folder inside of source, this is where our code goes. Okay, so we've got router modules, which lots of routes so far, right? We'll get there. We have an app component, and see, this is what I mean by cleanup. See this? Make it really easy for you. Delete everything here all the way down to router outlet. Easy enough. Right? So now our page looks like that. That's a cleanup in my mind, right? That's about as clean as I'm going to get. I took a page with scribbles all over it and got rid of the scribbles. Okay, there could be some CSS or stuff like that, and you take a look, but no, not really. You know, we'll probably get rid of that title usage there. And then the app module, just this is where things get declared. Okay, your inputs and outputs. All right, so what's next on our card? Talk through Angular. Okay, configure the folder. Talk through Angular. All right, so starting with the components that we have here. Angular is class-based, so you're going to see this component attribute added on. It provides your selector, your template URL, and your styles. Now, your template can be manually entered here. Okay, in this case, we're using a template URL, which tells it there's a file out here. It separates those concerns. Okay. React, it's all bundled into one. And if you ever saw anything on the history of React and where it started at, part of people's concerns was there wasn't a separation of concerns. Your HTML, your CSS, your JavaScript are all in one file, the JSX files, right? Your CSS is imported, but it was a little fuzzier than people were used to. Doesn't mean it's bad. Just that's what it is, okay? Within Angular, this pattern is used, and I want to open up. Well, let's stay here. So this is kind of the organizer for everything. Here's your name of your component. So when we look in the app module, and opening the side with the terminal open is not a good idea. There we go. You can see app component is imported, it's declared, and it's bootstrapped. So that's the one that kicked off. That's the one that kicks everything off. That's how Angular knows. There's a way to get rid of the app module, but I think we'll just leave it in because I'm used to working with it. Okay. When we install Material, we'll see a whole bunch of imports that we have to add to be able to use Material and that kind of stuff. Okay. But we've declared app component. Every component we create will create a component. Okay. So this component with its selector, template URL styles, creates a class. We're going to do a lot more than that. Okay. It also has HTML, which in this case isn't much, and SCSS. So we're using the SAS pattern here, so we can do the nesting and that kind of stuff. It builds all that for us. And it's specific for this component. Okay, it's not able to access outside. It adds keys on the end, numbers, random sets of numbers that are attached to the component HTML classes and the CSS classes, so that you don't get bleed over, which is really kind of cool. Okay. So I'm going to create, actually, bear with me for 1 second, because the next thing we have to do is configure the folder structure, and yeah, I'm not finding what I want. I'm opening a new editor because I've got gazillions of files, and I'll make sure I show you the structure, okay? And open folder. Where'd my open folder go? Oh, there it is. Okay, so projects, personal, I have a few. Let's see. Let's see, source on this one, app. There it is. Oh, that's part of it. That's a small one. Does data store have enough in there? Sorry, I'm looking for a specific set of folders because I want to show you how I've got these built up. No, that's not going to be it. Attendance cards, maybe? Source. I have to make sure it's Angular too. That's the other part. I don't think that's Angular. Well, maybe. Yeah, we can go with that. Bear with me 1 second here. I'm not sure I'll find the right one. And that one's okay. It doesn't have everything I want. I can't remember the advent calendar was. There it is. Okay. Something I'm missing there. Core pages shared.
Big favor. I need
Buzzer, maybe?
Sauce.
I guess we're going to go with Buzzer because that's the one I know better than the others, how it's set up. So we're going to open that folder. Right. So this is an Angular 13, not a 15. But that's okay. Not worried about that. We can close out that. Don't need that. Don't need the JSON file. Okay. So what you're going to find from devs is eventually you get this pattern where you figure out where things need to go and how they need to be laid out and organized. And this pattern of core, pages, and share really is the basis of how I structure mine. And in the core, I'll have a list of constants. My interfaces and my surfaces all go into the core. Shared would be any components that get shared across areas. So if I had a button template that I created, button component I could use that in multiple places. That becomes a shared component. And then pages should be pretty self-descriptive there. Okay. When we get to unit tests, there's some other pieces that we'll do. But what we need to do here in our app is we need to create a few folders.
Flashlights all over the house.
So core is the first one.
And he has a pasta sauce.
Yeah.
414 is the one.
I'm still in the other editor. And core, the big thing I need in core is constants. I always create a config.json. And we're going to have to modify things slightly to be able to even read that JSON in. Okay. So the configuration can do things like we could set up our routing, things like that for API calls and stuff like that. We're not quite there yet. So I'm going to leave this one pretty straightforward. We'll come back to how to configure that. We probably won't need interfaces right off the bat. But we probably will need a service or two. Create the services folder. And then next folder we're going to need for our structure are pages. And we're going to need the home page, but I'm not going to create that yet because I want to show you how this gets used. And we'll have a shared folder. I'm going to put this in here. And we need a get keep. So this get keep will copy. And since we're not putting anything in there yet into shared, shared one in the wrong place. Needs to be at the app level. There we go. So we're not putting anything yet. I'm going to paste a copy of that get keep. That way it goes up to the repository when we merge. Okay. So one of the really cool parts of Angular is, let's see, let's come down here. Let's clear some of this out. We got a whole bunch of stuff open. Don't need it all. There we go. One of the really cool parts of the Angular CLI. And we'll need to open a new terminal. Is that ng command. Okay. And it's smart enough, once you're in the folder with the project, to know that everything starts at app when you run the ng command. Okay, so I'm going to run an ng new, and I'm going to create my first service. We're not going to do much with the service yet, and we'll create a page as well. Okay, so this is going to be in core services. If I could type. What are we doing? Oh, I got that. Good. And we're going to call this one API handler. Now I don't have to tell it anything else. It's just going to create a couple of files for us. Unless it does that. Oh, it's not ng new. It's ng generate. And yeah, if I put it over my commands. Service. You tell it you're generating, you're telling what you're generating, which is a service. So what it does is it creates the API handler service with pretty much nothing in it and a basic test that shows that it can be created properly. Makes it really easy, right? We also need a page, so we're going to do an ng generate component. And this one is going to be in pages. And this is going to be our home page. There we go. And let's do one more folder in here that I've used, and I'll call this features. And I often get the question of what's the difference between features and shared? Well, feature is dual user once. So like my header, right? So we'll do an ng generate features. Header. Okay, I've got a whole bunch of stuff created, right? All over the place of what we've got. Okay, so let's do a quick peek at our header. Okay, and one of the things I personally don't like, a lot of people leave the app in. I like taking it off. This selector that you think selector, I should look over here where the camera is. Think selector like HTML tag selector. Okay, we can create a header tag. All right. And this one doesn't do much. There's not much here other than the header works, right? So if I come down into the home HTML, homeworks, well, let's put in our header above homeworks. Oops. tag header, a closing tag. Okay. Oh, nothing real exciting there yet. And I don't know why that needs to save, but I'll save it.
I got it.
There we go. Okay, so we got it in the home component, but the home component is not really doing much of anything at the moment. Okay, because remember our app component here is router outlet. We have to tell the router to use the page. And we're going to have to fix a few things later, but for now, let's take a look at, I want to make sure I get this right. In Angular, router, and we're going to do a quick search there. And it, I love the Angular documentation because here's common routing tasks. We've already added the router. We don't have to worry about that. So in the routing module, you need to bring in your component. Okay, let's do that first. So let's come down here into our Angular routing. Where we need to import. Oh, there we go. Highlights the home component. We hit the tab. It's now imported it. Okay. We have to define a basic route. Over here. Okay, and where we did the CLI with routing, blah, blah, blah. It's already there. I saw that when we were looking at the NG module. So the route routers, we have the routes here. Yep. And here's the basic route, path and component. The nice part is when we get to the point where we want to add like security, you can put the auth right into that routing. It's really kind of cool. So we need to add a route. And our path will be home. And then our component that we're going to is the home component. That's about as tough as it gets. Okay, now we're still running our front end code over here, and I'm not seeing any errors. So let's come back over here. And no, we're not seeing anything at all. So let's refresh just to make sure, and let's then, this happens. All right, so what are we getting? I'm not seeing any console errors, which is interesting. And we have a body that has an app root. We have a router outlet, but we don't have anything. There should have been something right after the router outlet. So either something didn't get saved or something is not triggering right. Oh, we probably have to set that as a default. I wonder if, let me try something. Not set default, because if I go to /home, that took me to that page. Okay. I go through this stuff every time, guys. Every time I set one up. So if we're looking at this is the way to do links. This is the way to do routing order. Blah blah blah. Somewhere down in here, we don't worry about we're not going to worry about wildcard routes yet because theoretically go to a page not found. 404 redirects path match full. Here we go. Redirect. That's what we want. Okay, so if it doesn't find it in the list, what do we want it to do? Well, reduce that down again. So if the path is nothing, I want to redirect to /home. That makes sense, right? It refreshed, and technically we're still on home over here. Let's get rid of that and give it nothing, just like we just said. Notice it redirected over there. There's our header component. There's our home component nested through. Okay. So going back to our card, we've talked through a little bit of Angular. We've configured a little bit of the folders. We have to set up the unit tests. And we have 15 minutes, which is probably just enough time to dig through that. The unit tests really aren't that difficult. For now, I'm going to close this out. And I'm going to shut down that node terminal that's running it. I'm going to clear this one. So we're back in the front end, and I'm going to run ng test. I want to see if the unit tests pass. And I want you to see what happens when it runs by default, too. Okay. It actually is kind of cool when it runs by default. I tend to prefer it just running the one time in the browser. It opens, or one time in the terminal. If it opens up in Chrome, which you're not seeing is off the screen here, I got this popped up. Oh, we got spec failures. App is running. Apparently it's not. And that doesn't equal that. Well, that's true. Undefined to contain. Well, yeah, we took that out. So this is app component, or both in app component that are failing. Okay, and notice it failed over here. And here's the scary part. If I close this, the test is still watching. I'm going to leave the site, and it's going to reopen it. Okay, it's really annoying. It's going to give it some time and it'll reopen. You got to Control C like crazy to get out of there. That's what I don't want. Okay. I like the visuals. It's great and all of that, but I just want to know if they pass or fail. So first of all, let's take a quick look at the app component spec. Okay, so it creates the app. The title is not HTTAT. We're going to get rid of that because I'm not even going to look that it's rendering the title because I don't need that. Okay. But now we should have test to pass because we only had the 2 broken ones. We had 4 successful. Where did the 4 successful? Well, home was 1, headers 1, API services 1. This create was one of my tests. Is that 4? That's 4. Yeah. 4. There we go. Look in the right direction, right? So let's set it up so that it'll run a little differently. I think I told you earlier that we needed to pay attention to our Karma config file. And it's really simple. Okay, Chrome becomes Chrome headless. Used to be in older versions of Angular that you had to install Chrome headless. Okay, there was all this tooling you had to install and things you had to change. Well, now you just tell Chrome headless. It's built in. They saw that people were using it a lot. We don't want to auto watch, and we want to single run. And we absolutely don't want it to restart on a file change. That's it. That one I've done a lot. In fact, I did it just recently for a library, so that's how I know where those are right off the top of my head. So now if we rerun the same test, we run through once and stop, if I'm lucky. If I'm not lucky, it does weird stuff. There we go. 4 tests passed. We took 2 out, so yeah, that makes sense. We don't have any reporting going on. Okay, because you would see a reporting option in there. If we will need, we shouldn't need reporting down the road. But if we do, this is the file we'd added it. Okay. We do have Jasmine. We do have the Jasmine HTML reporter. It's not reporting out right now through the coverage reporter, so it should have created a coverage HTAT folder. Let's make sure we didn't bury it somewhere else. Yeah, so the coverage reporter is not being run for some reason. I'm not going to worry about why at the moment. Okay. Because we really don't need it. When we run the pipeline, this will run. That's all we need. Okay. So we set up Angular 15. You saw it was a little bit of a pain to get set up. I'm eventually going to have to figure out the CLI on my machine and get that fixed. We did the basic cleanup, which wasn't much. We walked through Angular in a couple different directions. Okay. One of the things I hope you saw is that I referred back actually to the Angular IO documentation quite frequently. Their documentation is exceptional. Okay. React's is good, and I've seen it improving over the years, but I'll be honest, Angular's is better. That's my opinion. Okay. Not trying to start a battle here. We started configuring the folder structure. We set up our unit tests the way we needed them to go. So this is a card in my mind that's complete, sort of. And actually what we should have done is we should have moved this to InDev. Okay, so probably the next ones we'll work out is unit test protection and pipeline. Actually, we'll put those into the backlog, and I'm going to get rid of the sprint goal. I don't think we're actually going to use that one. So how do I get rid of it? There should be a delete or archive somewhere. There we go. There we go. Get rid of that. All right, so we'll put these 2 there. That's in dev, and now it needs to go to code review. Okay, so doing that, we have to bring up our handy dandy little. There we go. So testing and base components. Part of that Angular install. And now we can push all to origin. And now we need to create a pull request. And this is where It tries to help, but man, it just messes everything up. And that's one we need to add a card for. Don't let me forget. Well, you can let me forget. Oh, we need to add a card to provide the fields down in here. Okay. And so to make that complete without the normal fields that I would do, I don't need that open. Don't need that open. Need the scrum board. I need the card. And I want this. And we'll just put that down there because that's what we did. We're going to bullet those. And we're going to create a pull request. Now, you don't have to do this part, but I always do just out of habit. I assign it to myself. And if I need reviews, I can request reviewers. Well, we got a whole bunch of you on here that I can go, hey, I want you guys as reviewers. So you should get an email. Those of you that have been already approved, and it should put your names on the list here at some point, and you can approve. Now, we're not blocked. Okay. Require approval from specific reviewers before merging. Let's check our rule on that. We have a branch naming pattern. Did we not save that? Apparently not. Two. We have got to the deployment part. And we'll create the rule. Apparently I didn't click the create. Now we have a branch rule. So now if we come back to our branch, we're probably seeing something different. And now merge is blocked. Okay, merge can be performed automatically with 2 approving reviews. So you guys, somebody out there has to approve before that can move forward. Okay, so approval typically happens. So you'll get the link, you'll come out here, go to files changed. If you really want to sit down and look at every single file, you can. Okay, at some point you will, as you review code that we're working on. But what you'll do is you look at the file and you've looked at that and you said, okay, I don't need to worry about the editor config. Get ignored, don't need to worry about that. You check viewed. Okay, and if you make a comment or somebody suggests a change and a change is pushed up, this will reopen saying, hey, there's something new here next time you come in. Okay, so you can kind of see that history as you're working through the project. You don't need to look at all 37 files. You don't have to even check those. You come down here and review changes. I can't approve because it was my pull request. So somebody has to come down in here and check approve. You can leave a comment if you want. You can request changes if you want. You submit whatever that review is. And it shows up over here on the list. Hey, Muhammad checked one. Good. I got one. Okay. And let's get the second one. We merge that in. Hey, we got the second one. All right. Oh, we need to add the pull request template. That's what we need to add. So I need to add another card. While you guys work on that, I'm going to add another card here. And I'm going to add this into the current sprint because we need it. Add your template. That's an easy one. Okay, so this one is going to be like a 5-minute card. It's easy. I mean, one of the simplest ones we'll do. Why is it not letting me? There we go. Edit. I'm not even going to put that in because I don't need to worry about that. That's a 1-pointer. We won't do it tonight. We've got 5 minutes left. Okay. Somebody wants to get a hold of me and do that. We'll do it next time. Okay. So this is in code review. So I'm going to move that over there. We're not doing any testing yet. We may eventually. Okay. And we've got 4 reviews. All right. We're cranking now. All right. We're going to merge this request. No conflicts. Continuous integration is not set up, which we will eventually have. Okay. Pull requests. I have options. I can squash and merge. I can rebase and merge. I can just merge. Typically, I just merge. Okay. One of the other ones to pay attention to occasionally is if you're going to have a commit that hangs out for a long period of time, you can convert it to a draft. Okay. I've had ones that where I got my front end code done and we were waiting on the back end. And because of bugs or things that came up, it took a couple of sprints to get back to it. And rather than just have this PR hanging out there for 2 months, I converted to a draft that says, hey, it's out here, but I know I don't want to move forward with it yet. That way, nobody accidentally comes in, because anybody that can see that green button can click it. It's authorized. Okay. I may not want somebody to accidentally do that. No, in this case, I do. I'm going to merge that request. Okay. And done. And that's merged in. Okay. So we now have a completed pull request. And I think we can. Oh, we tie a branch. That's what it was. Go tie the branch. Let's come over here. Branch. That's the one I want. The link. Copy. And if I remember, the Trello board let us do, and that was the one I wanted to play with. And since we got 4 minutes left, GitHub. Add a branch. Link to your GitHub account. Ooh, wow, something's popping up. Organized access, authorized Trello. Redirected back. Ooh. Search repository, how to take a test. Feature. Look at that. Oh, that's awesome. Look at that. Added it in. What else can we do? We're going to add a commit. We're going to add an issue. We're going to add a pull request. Then we're going to attach the pull request. Ooh, we got the branch and the pull request. So this is nice in terms of cards. Jira can do this if it's set up right. Because anybody looking at this card could go back and see the work that was done. Can see who reviewed and when it was reviewed and the timing and those kind of things too. Which personally, I think that's awesome. Okay. And I think we can, join a card. So I'm the member working on the card. If you had multiple people, you can add multiples. Okay. So then that card now is merged. It's showing that it's merged. And so I'm going to move it to done. Okay. That's simple. Now, eventually we'll archive that and that kind of thing as we move forward. All right, we've got 3 minutes left. I think I timed that reasonably well. And if I move the Google Meet off that screen, I'll stop staring off to the left side and look at the camera. Questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? Oh, time attended on the form. Put the time of the meeting, the start of the meeting. I'll update the form. That way I know which meeting you're in. So any other questions, comments, concerns?
Will we ever go into, like, I guess, how to best do code reviews and stuff like that?
We can, absolutely.
Okay, because I haven't really done much of that. So
okay. Well, my hope is I'm not going to be the only one writing code, right? Most of you have worked with React components, and you saw here the HTML isn't radically different. Okay, there are some variations, and I'll get to those. The CSS is still CSS, right? And the JavaScript inside the class is still JavaScript inside the class. So once you see me do 1 or 2 components, as you even do some digging into the Angular documentation, you'll see really quickly it's fairly simple to work with. And one of the reasons I like working with Angular, particularly with large groups like we have here, is we don't all have to be working on the same thing. And, somebody can be picking up, setting up the basic banner. Might be a decent one to start with. And so if somebody gets one of those done, as we come into one of these sessions, maybe we do a review of that code and you see what I'm looking for. Okay. I would like to get to a point over time that I get to review your code a couple of times and you get to see it a little more active. Does that make sense? Okay.
yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. You got about 60 seconds for any other questions. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next session that you're at. Cool. All right, guys. I got a meeting at 7 o'clock, so I got to hop off. Thanks, guys. Catch you next time.